Bcom semester 1, English medium, economics. Friends, we already have completed 3 chapters. Our last chapter was elasticity of demand. Now, guys, we are going to start your future fourth chapter in this subject, that is production function. So, in economics, your fourth chapter is production function, and let's see what are those topics that we need to discuss in this chapter. So this chapter is very long and lengthy, but it is very easy to understand. So here are 22 different points that we need to discuss in this chapter, and let's start the lecture with the meaning of production. So guys, let's understand what is the meaning of production. We already have heard this word many times. We all are aware with this term production. Production means a transformation from we can say a raw material to finished good. So this is all about the transformation of the form of material. Let's see what is the meaning of production in this book. In ordinary sense, the word production means creating something. But as we have seen earlier, just as man cannot destroy matter, so also he cannot create matter. What he can do is to change its utility or add utility to it. If consumption means extracting utility from the matter, production means putting utility into the matter. Production, therefore, is sometimes defined as creation of utility. But this is not a scientifically correct definition, because to produce a thing which has utility but no value will not be regarded as production in economics. Production, therefore, should be defined not as creation of utility but creation or addition of value. So, guys, here the term is widely used is utility. Now, what is utility? Utility means satisfaction. For example, we have trees and woods, but those are useless. But when carpenter use those trees and woods to become furniture like chair, table, then it will be usable. So, guys, a normal wood or ply is not much usable for the people. But when a carpenter make chair and table from that wood, then it will then that we can say that furniture of table and chair are quite usable and people will use it. So carpenter has added utility into those ply or the we can say woods. So guys, this is how we can create. We cannot create utility, but actually we can put utility into the material, and this is known as the production. Now we will see about the production function. So guys, as our chapter says, production function, we need to understand what is production function. Production means transformation of physical inputs into physical output. So guys, here we are given the basic understanding of production term. Now we will move further. A firm that wants to produce something has coordinate factors of production, and in addition it has to produce and use other inputs. The term input is wider than factors of production. All those goods and services that a firm uses in the process of production may be termed inputs. For example, a firm may be using labor, capital, and land, but in addition to this, it may be using fuel, raw materials, steel, dyes, and a number of other things. Sometimes all these are lumped together and treated either as land or capital. So, guys, here we need to focus on the different factors connected to the production. So guys, if we want to do the production, then we must have the different we can say equipment or the different factors of the production. So if we want to do the production, then we must have labor, we must have capital, we must have land. So these are the factors of the production. We need these things to do the production. So guys, let's see further. A production function expresses a relationship between output and input under conditions of given technology. Thus, given the technical condition of production, the output of a particular goods depends on the quantity of two or more inputs. The production function is expressed as below. So guys, here we are given the production is equal to factor in bracket A, B, C, D to N. So guys, these are the inputs. We need to have we need to do the inputs to do the production. We must have raw material, we must have machines, we must have capital, we must have labors, we must have land. So we need all these things to do the production. Without these things we cannot do the production. So guys, we need to understand that when we need to do the production, what kind of resources we need to have. So it is all about the group of resources that we need to use to do the production. So if we talk about production function, then guys, production function means in which ratio, or we can say in what proportion we need to use these resources to do the production. Hence, it is a relationship between the factors of the production to the total production. So we can say production function is expresses a relationship between output and input. Hence, P stand for production or output of a commodity, and A, B, C, D, etc. stand for inputs or productive resources which are used for producing the commodity. So, guys, the major characteristics of production function are as follows. So, guys, here we are given the characteristics, but before starting the characteristic, we need to have a knowledge about what is production function. So, guys, production function means if we want to do the production of any product, to produce that product, how much resources and what kind of resources that are required to do the production of a particular product. So here we need to understand about the relationship between input and the relationship between input and output. So guys, here the relationship between input and output is considered as a production function. Now we will start the characteristics. So here we are given the characteristics of production function, and under the characteristics we are given the first characteristics is the production function represent a technical relationship between physical input and physical output. As we have already discussed, it does not take into consideration money cost of input or price of output sold. Besides this, the state of technical knowledge is assumed to be given and constant. It is possible that the same amount of output might produce higher level of output if a better technology is implied in production. This means that the same combination of two or more factors can produce more output with improved technology. It should also be noted that we assume certain degree of sustainability between substitutability between factors while formulating a production function. In addition, we assume divisibility factors of factors or inputs. So, guys, here we can clearly understand that production function is highly related with the physical input and physical output, and about the combination of the resources. Now, second characteristics that we have on the screen, that is, it is clear that production function changes with the change in the technology. Because as you know about the automation, if you have the heard automation, then you must know that automation means in the past time, more people were required to do the production process, but now at present, automation has been happened. Means before 20, for example, 20 people are required to do the production of a particular product, but now at present only 5 people are able to do the production of the same thing because of the technology. Because now machine has come into the market, and machines has entered into the market, and machines work instead of the people working in our past time. So guys, instead of people, now at present machines are working. So at present we need less people to in short, we need less people to do the production process. So guys, here we can clearly understand that production function changes with the changes in technology, because as the technology changes, uh, production function will also be changes, because production function is the relationship between the total output and the total input. So as the technology changes, we will change our resources from we can say from people to the machines. So guys, we when we acquire machines into our production process, then we need less number of people to do work in our factory. So this is how the production function changes with the change in the technology. Now we will see the production function states the maximum quantity of output that can be produced from the given quantities of input. So guys, as we know that if I have a certain number of, or we can just say a certain quantity of the input. So I have fixed land, I have fixed labor, I have fixed capital. So by using my input, how can I produce more and more quantity of product? So to have maximum output, I need to use my input in such a way or in such a combination so that I can use them optimally. Then the fourth point is production function like the demand function. It is considered always with reference to a particular period of time. So guys, it is always consideration of the timing, because this is a production function expresses a flow of output resulting from a flow of inputs during a defined period of time. And guys, the fifth point is production function can be represented in various forms. It can be represented by tables, by equations, by total, by average and marginal product curve, and by isochords. So guys, here we have seen the characteristics of, we can say, a production functions. So guys, if we explain these things in Gujarati, then we can clearly understand that production function નો મતલબ એવો થાય કે આપણે કોઈ પણ વસ્તુનું પ્રોડક્શન કરવું હોય તો આપણે પ્રોડક્શન કરવા માટે જમીનની જરૂર પડે, કર્મચારીઓ એટલે કે લેબર્સની જરૂર પડે, મૂડીની એટલે કે કેપિટલની જરૂર પડે, આપણે ઘણા બધા જે ઉત્પાદનના સાધનો છે એની જરૂર પડે. હવે કોઈ પણ કંપની પાસે ઉત્પાદનના સાધનો છે એ સ્થિર અવસ્થામાં હોય, જમીન એટલી હોય, ફિક્સ સ્થિર અવસ્થામાં ઉત્પાદનના સાધનો હોય, તો કંપની પાસે ઉત્પાદનના સાધનો જે છે એ ઉત્પાદનના સાધનોનો ઉપયોગ એ કેવી રીતે કરે કે જેનાથી એને મેક્સિમમ વધારેમાં વધારે ઉત્પાદન મળી શકે. તો એના માટે પ્રોડક્શન ફંક્શન જે છે એ આપણે સ્ટડી કરવાનું હોય છે. તો પ્રોડક્શન ફંક્શનનો મતલબ એવો થાય છે કે કંપની પાસે કે કોઈ પણ ધંધાકીય એકમ પાસે જેટલા પણ ઇનપુટ રહેલા છે એમાં એનો મેક્સિમમ ઉપયોગ કેવી રીતે કરે કે જેનાથી એને મેક્સિમમ ઉત્પાદન મળે. સો ધીસ ઇઝ વોટ ઓલ અબાઉટ ધ પ્રોડક્શન ફંક્શન. અને બીજું આપણે એ સમજવાનું ખાસ હતું કે દાખલા તરીકે કોઈ પણ કંપનીને કોઈ વસ્તુનું પ્રોડક્શન કરવું છે તો એને દાખલા તરીકે કર્મચારીઓની જરૂર છે અને એની પાસે મૂડી છે. તો ઘણીવાર એવું બને કે દાખલા તરીકે 10 કર્મચારીઓ કામ કરે છે અને એને મૂડી 10 એકમની મૂડી રાખી છે અને ઉત્પાદન કરે છે, એના કરતા 10 ને બદલે 15 કર્મચારી લાવશે એટલે કે કર્મચારીમાં વધારો કરશે અને મૂડીમાં ઘટાડો કરશે, તો એ રીતેથી કરીને પણ એ પ્રોડક્શન વધારી શકશે. So guys, this is what we have explained this thing in Gujarati also. So some of the students might understand proper meaning of the production function. Now we will move further to the types of production function. There are two types of production function. In other words, there are two types of input output relations. These are as follows. So guys, here we are given two different types of production function. The one is short run production function and the second is long run production function. Let's understand. Wherein short run production function, wherein quantity of only one input is variable. So guys, for example, we have two different variables. For example, we have two different input. For example, I want to produce a one commodity or a one kind of commodity, and for that I need two input. The one is land, or we can say the one is capital, or the other is labor. So from two input, one of the input is variable. Means I can change one input. So if, for example, I cannot increase or decrease my capital, but I can increase the number of labor in my factory, or I can less the number of labor in my factory. So when we are doing production, in the during the production, I need to use many inputs. I need to use land, I need to use labor, I need to use capital. So guys, what is short run production function? Short run production function means whatever the input I am using, among all those input, one input is variable. Variable means one input can be increased or one input can be decreased. So when only one input is variable, it is known as short run production function. So let's read further. These kind of production functions then known as variable proportion production function also, because when the quantity of only one input is changed, keeping all other input constant, the proportion of inputs change. The law of variable proportion is related to the short run production function. And now guys, we will see long run production function. So guys, in the long run production functions, all the inputs of the production are variable, means all can be changed. Let's see, wherein quantities of all inputs are changed at the same time. This kind of production function is known as fixed proportion production function also, because when all inputs are increased, proportion in which they are used not change. The law of return to scale are related to long run production function. So guys, when company wants to expand its business, then the long run production function is workable, because in the long run production function all the inputs are variable. For example, when we increase our labor by 20%, then our land will also be increased by 20%, our capital will also be increased by 20%. So in the long run production functions, all the inputs are variable, but their we can say the proportion of their changes will also be the same. If one variable is increased or decreased, or we can say if one variable is changed by 20%, other variable or we can say other inputs are also be changed with 20%. Now guys, we will see law of variable proposals. So in short-run production functions, some factors of production such as capital and land are fixed, while some other factors such as labor and raw material are variable. So guys, you need to focus on this slide because in the short-run production function, here we are reading about short-run production function. Some factors of production such as capital and land are fixed. A company has a fixed amount of land and a fixed amount of capital, while some other factors such as labor and raw material are variable. The short-run product function describes the relation between the quantity and variable factor and the quantity of commodity produced. The equation of the short-run production function is as follows. So guys, here we are given the equation of short-run production function. Here we are given the quantity is equal to, here we are given the factor in bracket land and here we are given the capital. So we are given bar on the capital. Bar indicates that the capital will be remain constant and labor can be increased and decreased, because here we are talking about short run production function, and as we know it very well that in the short run production function only one input can be variable. So here the labor is variable, but the capital will remain constant. To produce the quantity of Q, we need we need two different input, and among these two different input, one is variable and other is constant. So guys, this is what all about the short run production function. Now we will move further. This law describes the input-output relationship where the input is increased by varying the quantity of only one input, such as labor. When the quantity of variable factor is changed, keeping the quantity of other factor constant, the proportion between the variable factor and fixed factor is altered. Since under this law we study the efforts of variation in factor proportion, this law is known as the law of variable proportion. Now guys, we will move further and see statement of the law. What is the statement of the law? What statement is given by different economists? Let's see. According to P.A. Samuelson, an increase in some inputs relative to some other fixed inputs will, in a given state of technology, cause output to increase. But after a point, the extra output resulting from the same addition of extra input will become less and less. So guys, here we need to understand. For example, in my factory, 20 employees are working. If I want to increase my production, I will hire more employees. And for example, now I have hired 5 more employees, and now in my factory 25 employees are working, so that my production will also be increased, because before that only 20 employees are working in my factory, but now 25 employees are working in my factory, so my production will usually be increased. Now I will decide that let's hire more employees, and after that I will hire 5 more employees, and now 30 employees are working in my factory. So again my production will be increased, but as I increase my employees, it is not obvious that my production will also be increased, because from after certain point of time my total production will be decreasing, will started decreasing, because this is all about diminishing marginal return. And the we can say PS evidence also says the same thing, that after a point the extra output resulting from the same addition of extra input will become less and less. Marshall has stated the law of relation in agriculture. In increase in the labor and capital applied in the cultivation of land causes in general a less than proportionate increase in the amount of product raised, unless it happens to coincide with an improvement in the arts of agriculture. So, guys, Professor Marshall says that these kind of things can only be seen in the agricultural sector. Here we are given the illustration. Let's see what the illustration says. Here we are given the unit of labor, total production, marginal product, and average product. So, guys, the thing that I was trying to explain you is just here in this table. Let's understand. When only one labor is working in my factory, I was able to produce 80 units, and my marginal product and average product will also be 80 units. When I increase my labor from 1 to 2, at present, for example, 2 employees or 2 laborers are working in my factory. Now I am able to produce 170 unit. So when there was only one labor in my factory, I was only able to produce 80 unit. But now when I add one labor more to it, now I am able to produce 170 units. So I have added 90 units to my total production. So this is what the marginal product means when increasing when increasing or decreasing one labor or one unit, what changes do we get? That is known as marginal product. So guys, when only one employee is working in my factory, the total production was only 80 units. But when I increase from 1 to 2, now they both produce 170 unit, and I have increased 90 units more to it. Now, when I increased from 2 to 3, when three laborers were working in my factory, I was able to produce 270 units. And I have also added from 170 to 270, that is 100 units more to it. So, as I am increasing my labor, my production is also increasing with not only the production but also marginal product and average product is increasing. But when I increase from 3 to 4 employees, I have increased my production from 270 to 368. So guys, here I have increased only 98 unit. From 2 to 3, I was adding 100 unit, but when I increased from 3 to 4 employees, when 4 employees were working in my factory, I was able to produce 368 unit. So my total production is increasing, but with that my marginal production is start decreasing. Then when I add more and more employees, or we can say more and more labors to it, finally I will get decreasing my total production, and the marginal product it will also go into the negative. So guys, this is how the situation says that when you increase any one input, even we can say in a exceeding limit, or even the limit that has exceeded, it will go into the negative aspect. So everything has a limit. You can increase any input up to a limited, or we can say up to the limited boundary. When you go beyond the boundary, you will get the negative impact of that particular increment in the input. Now let's understand the explanation given here on the screen. That is marginal physical product increase initially up to 3 units of the labor. After this point, it starts diminishing and becomes zero at the 8th unit of labor. Beyond the 8th unit of the labor, marginal physical product is negative. So guys, this is how about the marginal product in given above table. And this is also here we are explained the total production and also about the average production. Now we will move further to see the same diagram. Here we are given the tabular form, and now we are given the diagram of the same situation. So guys, in this diagram we are given two axes. The one is x-axis, the other is y-axis. On the x-axis we are given labor, and on the y-axis we are given output. So guys, here you can see in the beginning of the time when we are increasing our labors, our output and our labor, as our labor is increasing with increasing the labor, our output is also increasing. But after this, our labor is increasing more compared to the output, and when we increase our labor from 3 to 4, here you can see the slope of this line, the slope of this total production has gone slightly down. And after 4 to 8, you can see over here that the output is not increasing according to the increment in the labor. Labor is increasing rapidly, but we can see over here that the output is not quite increasing as speedily as the labor. And after a certain limited point, when we increase our labor, the total production will going down. So guys, here you can see that after a certain point of time, or we can say after a certain point, after a certain boundary, we cannot increase the input, or we can say we cannot increase the labor as per the requirement. So guys, here you can see the whole diagram over here, and you can also see the total production line, and you can get clear idea about the increment in a one variable, or you can say one input to do the production. And guys, here we are given the diagram of average product and marginal product. So this will also convey the same meaning as we have seen in the table above, that how the marginal uh, product and the average product changes according to the increment in the labor as well as the output. Now guys, we will see here we have seen three different stages. The first stage of increasing return, second stage of diminishing return, and the third stage of negative return. So guys, what are these three different stages? Here we can say the first stage is from 1 to 3. In beginning time, when we are increasing our labors, our production will also be increased, our marginal products will also be increased, our average product will also be. So this is the first day. Now from 4 to 8, we are given the diminishing marginal, or we can say diminishing returns, because in this case our total production is being increased, but the marginal product and average product has started going decreasing. And after the 8 from 9 and 10, our total production is also going started decreasing. So this is negative impact. So here we have seen three different stages of the returns. So I need not to read all these things in detail, as we have seen the diagram, as we have seen the tabular form also. So guys, you can read this clearly and you can get an idea about the three different stages of increasing one input from exceeding limit. Now guys, we need to understand about explanation of the law. What does the law says? So we will explain this law in our second lecture of this chapter. We will start this lecture at this point of time, and as we have discussed four different points, let's see what we have discussed in this chapter, sorry, in this lecture, and then we will conclude this lecture. So guys, we have started your new chapter, that is production function. In this chapter we have discussed the meaning of production, and as we know the word very well, that production means transformations of raw material to finished good. And in this book we have given the meaning of production means to add a utility to useless things, or to you to something, means to add an utility to some product so that people can use it easily. We also have taken an example of woods, that a tree or wood is not much usable when they are just lying ideally, but when a carpenter use those woods to make furniture of it, then people will use them. So furniture is quite usable. So furniture has been become from that wood. So carpenter has added utility to that wood and make that furniture from that wood. So this is how we can add a utility to particular thing and make the things usable. So this is known as production. After the meaning of production, we also have discussed about production function. Production function means it is a relationship between input and output, and we also have seen the formula over here, as well as the different four or five different characteristics of the production function. After the production characteristics of production function, we also have discussed the types of production function. In the types of production function, we have seen short-run production function and long-run production function. And as we know that in the short-run production function, among all input, only one input is variable. And in the long-run production function, all the inputs of the productions are variable. And after that, we have discussed the law of variable proportions. And in the law of variable proportion, we have discussed and we have seen the short run and the long run effect, and we also have seen the formula of that. And then we were discussing this table, and after that we have seen this diagram and explained till third stage of negative return, as we have crossed the boundary of increasing one input, then we will get negative, or we can say we will get decreasing the total output of the product. So this is that's it for today in this lecture, and now we will come with the new lecture from the next day, and we'll see from the explanation of the law. So that's it for today, guys. Goodbye.